Alright, so I am going to be going over Ali Hadi's challenge number 3, the mystery hacked system. This was a really fun challenge. I really enjoyed it just because of how technical and in-depth that it was, and I look forward to doing more in the future. It's kind of cool. So you're given a scenario from the start where basically there is a user who has a mysterious text file left on their machine, and in that file it reads, "Hello Master, catch me if you can. Best regards, your admin." So this is a pretty interesting start. There's not even a timestamp of when this was put down to disk. That wasn't even. We have no information as far as time goes. Pretty interesting. Also, we don't even know where this file exists, and let's get started into trying to find where that was, along with what times we need to narrow it into. So this was given in the form of a 25 gigabyte EO1 file. Let's go back here. No. So this is exactly what we want. And I put this right into FTK Imager just to start pulling out some important files that I thought would be useful to start looking at. And right off the bat, what I did is I pulled the entire registry out. So what do we have here? Pulled them out just to save some time. So I did the SAM, Security Hive, Software Hive, and System Hive. Basically, I loaded these all into Registry Explorer just because I wanted to see what other files would be important to grab from the system, maybe from different users and stuff like that. So Registry Explorer, great tool. We have 3 accounts. Nothing looks really unstandard here. We see that there is a master account, which is logged in 3 times. And there's also the administrator account, which is a default account, which is logged in 5 times. Now, automatically here from the start, we know that administrator, at least the default account, isn't automatically enabled by default, unless it's pushed down over group policy, etc. But still, when you install it, it's not enabled. So, what did I do from here? Just knowing that there was a master and administrator account, I wanted to pull the files from those users out. So I decided it'd be good to pull the ntuser.dat file and also the userclass.dat for shellbags, just to get some context of where the users have been, just in case if maybe they put a USB in, or they could have even went to a website and downloaded some malware. Who knows? I just wanted to get as much information as possible. So my first look, I wanted to see where the, kind of like the normal activity that the users have gone through. So I did go into shellbags right away, and I'm going to pull up Shellbags Explorer. There we go. I didn't find there was much that was really useful with Shellbags Explorer, or just Shellbags in general. I apologize. We're going to dig into just the administrator account though, just because there is some relevant information here. I didn't really find much with the master account, but we'll see why here in a sec. So just to expand everything, these were definitely some important directories to start looking at. So what I did is I pulled back FTK Imager and went to each of these locations just to kind of see, just because it was so minimal. But however, if this was a legitimate account and it had been used a lot more, this would be kind of like an unrealistic approach. I probably would have done this a little bit differently, but since we have it all here, let's use what we know to our advantage. And I'm going to go to each one of these directories. So inside the tools directory, let's see what we have. Interesting. So that's the same note from the challenge. Let's go there. So same thing. We know that now it's in the C tools folder, and also that it was created on 12/12/2015 at 3:24 a.m. This is offset. The actual time zone on this machine, I later found out, was UTC -8, which if you translate this comes back to December 11th, 2015 at 7:24:39 p.m. I have all these written down. It's going to be kind of difficult to go back and forth with timestamp conversions, but fact of the matter is that this was created at this time, and that's definitely an important thing to know, just because we want to work backwards from that, just to get a better timeline. So going back to shellbags, we know that new folder was created and renamed to tools, most likely, so no need to investigate. Users, master, desktop docs. Now this is interesting, so I'm going to go there as well. So users, master, desktop docs. Have that open already, look at that. So we have 2 text files here, which seem to be relevant because actually they were created, well, let's see, when was C tools created? So this is 324. This is 309 and 323. So interesting. So I believe that this was probably created by the master user, and your admin says hi to you. So just from the timeline, I believe that this was created by the administrator account, and we'll go into that a little bit further when we look at event logs. But we have some great times to start with. So from here, we kind of know when things started happening, but I wanted to see what programs were launched. And like I said, the other shell bags from the master user really didn't provide any helpful information. So I couldn't determine any, other drives that were plugged in. I didn't see any USBs or anything like that. So really nothing important. So I wanted to start looking at executions. And what better way to do that, I believed, by starting with the ntuser.dat. You could look right at the user assist key. And I have both of these already in here. So I'm going to start with master. Bookmarks, common, user assist. Great. So there's not much here that was launched. We have VBox Windows Editions, which is the VirtualBox executable when you install the VirtualBox tools. So nothing concerning there. However, I wouldn't push that off to the side. That's still something that was executed on the system, which means it could be malware. If the hypervisor did have something, hey, I mean, that could be used on the virtual machine as well. So definitely would be an interesting case to look at if that was malicious. But in this case, it was not. We also have Notepad. Notepad, okay. I mean, seems like we've seen a couple text files on this machine. Nothing suspicious, but wouldn't discount that either. But honestly, looking further into this, nothing. Notepad had the right hashes and all that stuff too, so nothing suspicious there. Looking at executions specifically of the other account, we just have Notepad. So at this point, it was kind of a dead end. I really didn't know where to go. So what I did is kind of looked at times. This is at 324.08, and that's pretty interesting because I believe the created file in the tools folder was around that time. Let's go there. Huh, okay. So good to know. The Notepad was launched at this time in here. So, I mean, something. All right, let's track that back a little bit further. And as for timestamps, I figured it'd be best to extract the event logs. So that's exactly what I did. Files, event logs. So I took out application, security, and system. The only one that helped me in this case is security. So I loaded that locally to my box. Now, the timestamps here are going to be super weird. And I say that because my box is UTC -5. This image is UTC -8. And the native event viewer pretty much adjusts for my local time. So it's off by UTC -3 in here. So you have to subtract 3 hours. But basically, let's see what happened. Now, what I automatically started looking for was to see when the administrator account was enabled, to see if that would help us. And I found that this was the case at 10:20 or 7:21, excuse me, 08. And all right, I was thinking, well, that's not really too helpful, but okay. And then I can later see, well, after comparing this, that the administrator executed Notepad, and then the README was created right after that. So the timeline's kind of lining up there, but we need to go back further. But I was thinking, well, I really don't have much to look at. I mean, I do have some event logs, and yeah, an account was, enabled and stuff like that, but I need some really hard evidence of, and what if it was just the master user? What if master just enabled administrator? It doesn't tell you much. So I was looking at other execution artifacts and seeing what to look at, and going back to Registry Explorer, I remembered about the app compat cache artifact, and that's in the system hive. You can get there by bookmarks, app compat cache, and I love Registry Explorer because it parses it all out for you. Great job on that. Okay, so we have all these times, and I mean, they're all kind of spread out, 2013, 14, right? Like, they're all kind of everywhere. So just to kind of clarify what time is kind of invalid in this list. And in that sense, I mean, what's the earliest we can go back? I went to see when the system was installed, and you can do that under software and current version NT. And you'll get the install date. And this lines up exactly with the same time of the master created date. So the install date is right here. So we know that on 12, this is going to be technically 12/11 at 2015. This is the earliest we can account for. So going back to app-compat cache. Oops, system. Right. Okay. App-compat. Sweet. So let's go to the modified time, and we're going to sort this. So anything up top, we don't need these 2013s. You know, these are all, this doesn't really account for us unless the ISO was infected, but that's a whole different ballgame. We're not going to go there. So we got the five entries for 2015. This is all we can really look at. And in the first 4 here, I can just automatically say, well, hey, this is the mounted VirtualBox tools, and here's their installation directories. So those were launched at some point. Yeah, but then there's another one. We have Magnify, and Magnify stood out because it was something different, but it really didn't add up. It was just kind of like, okay, well, Magnify, I know exactly what that is. That's a Windows I wouldn't say compatibility, but accessibility tool that you can pull up with the Windows plus button or Windows minus button. Where is it? There it is. Okay, cool. So that launches this program here. This is Magnifier. Basically zooms in and out, makes things bigger, smaller. Fine. So at some point, the box launched this tool. We can't attribute this to a user, but however, we can say that there's a very good chance that this was executed. So what we're going to do from here now is just looking locally. I'm going to open up Process Explorer from sysinternals. And this is a great nifty feature that just lets you do one of these. And we can target exactly what this program is. So it's magnify.exe, and just after looking, you know, I could pull up where it's really from. So it's in the System32 directory under magnify.exe. And hey, like, that's no surprise right there. So the intended functionality of opening Magnify is for the magnifier. However, I think a deeper dive on this would be a little bit more appropriate. So that's what I did. All right, let's go to Windows and System32. We'll go down to Magnify. Sort by name. Oh, wow, sort the wrong way. All right. Look at that. All right, there we are. All right, so one small thing to notice, just right off the bat. So we're comparing locally. Just for curiosity's sake. Yeah, just line up. Okay. So, spoiler, but that's alright. So Magnify. On my local system, I'm running a Windows 10 box. This box that we're operating on, or that we're investigating, is a Windows 8 box. So there shouldn't be too much difference unless there was some major feature change, but as far as I know, Magnify is a pretty old feature and it hasn't changed much. So on this box, it's 348 kilobytes, as for on my local machine, it's 782. That's not the first thing that stood out, but that's definitely something that could be noticed, just for integrity purposes. But the thing that really jumped out is the timestamp. Now, when you install Windows, I mean, there's a lot that's installed, and it's usually around the same timestamps, because in here we can see there's a lot of 2013s, 14s, blah, blah, blah. And that doesn't mean much, because the attacker could definitely change the timestamp, and it's very easy to do so. But in this case, it was forgotten to change it. So it was 12/11/2015 at whatever time. Now this definitely was notable, And I wanted to start comparing this to other programs and also just to see if it was straight up malware, because hey, who knows, it could have been replaced. So what I did is I pulled this out and put it in a malware analysis virtual machine. Get to that in a sec. Okay, cool. And the first thing I did is I took Magnify and I put it in VirusTotal. I was like, hey, that's a pretty convenient way to do it. And something I found really strange was A, it was clean, so okay, that's kind of interesting. But also B, we can see that the file name was command.exe or cmd.exe. And that's must be, you know, I wanted to check out the other, what people had to say and whatever. It was kind of confusing all around because I wasn't expecting, well, hey, well, why is this coming back as that? So I pulled CMD out and I was wondering, well, okay, are these the same thing? Like, did someone just replace it with CMD? And let's look at the hashes of both files. So that's CMD. So yeah, same hash. So pretty interesting there. I was kind of shocked to see that Magnify was just straight up replaced with command prompt. And interestingly enough, what it looks like to have happened is this got replaced, which also means if you run it, it's just a command prompt. But also, if you just did the Windows Plus hotkey, that'll load you up a nice new command prompt. And what's really funny about this is that you can run that hotkey from anywhere. You can run it from any account. It's not account specific, it's system wide. You can even do it from the lock screen. And to not have proper credentials and sit there and be able to just type away at the command prompt at the login screen is a little bit concerning. And I think that's exactly how this case went down. So, what happened? Basically, at some point, the magnify.exe executable was replaced with cmd.exe, which would allow an attacker to open a shell from anywhere and have access to that system. Which, in this case, what happened is they enabled the administrator account, which I also found inside the event logs, clearly already here. And I put a timeline together that tracked down exactly when each thing happened. And really, all the things kind of lined up and pointed to, oh, well, the only way that this could have happened is with Magnify. And because Magnify was launched, let's see, it was about 6 minutes before that note was created. So that pretty much points, all, you know, along with the other actions, that something had gone down. And in this case, it was asked to find, let's see, what are our questions here? How was the system hacked? And what evidence did you find? Okay, cool. So, how was it hacked? Now, Magnify is interesting. Well, anything in the System32 directory is kind of interesting because if I go here and I just try and rename it, just do this, it won't let me. I mean, even though I am an administrator, let's go yes. You need permission to perform this action. So, you might need to be system level or have physical access to that drive to replace this file to have that backdoor. But the funny thing is that, you know, it's not assigned, nothing is signed here either, so if it's modified, it doesn't really matter. And also the hotkey is accessible from anywhere. Alright, so that's my conclusion on this case. It was very interesting. Thank you, Ali, for setting this up. I look forward to more challenges in the future. Alright, thank you.